Hey guys and gals, this is Frisky Rebel here, coming to you with a first impressions review of the VIVO dual monitor desk mount. I bought this off of Amazon, and as you guys can see, I already got started, but I have a flat Samsung 1080p monitor here with a webcam, and over here I've got my curved MSI monitor that I use as my primary monitor. I've already gotten started taking off the stand for it, and I've got everything else for the dual monitor stand, or mount I should say, laid out. This is going to be placed on a white IKEA desk, and it's going to be set up with this chair. This chair has got a bit of an ergonomic nature to it. I find it very comfortable, but nonetheless, I bought this to make my entire desktop setup more comfortable, and I didn't want any back strain, and I didn't want to have to compromise in positioning, whether I'm editing or gaming or streaming or otherwise. There was always some way, shape, or form where I had to compromise either on my wrists or on my forearms or with my neck looking too far down because there was no height adjustability for these monitor setups. I ended up buying this, and I'm going to take you guys through the installation process, and we'll see how things go. So first thing you're going to want to do is get yourself a hold of a Phillips head screwdriver. It looks like a plus sign. It's one of these. From there, you also want to make an additional note that each monitor should not weigh more than 22 pounds. That's the limit for this thing. Both of my monitors sit at approximately 14-15 pounds, so I'm safe. Second thing that you're going to want to do is figure out what sort of mount setup you need. There's this one here where you've got a desk that already has a hole in it. I don't, so I'm using option A. This consists of getting access to this clamp. So grabbing this first is your best bet. From there, I believe you're going to be attaching these. I meant this. It's one solid piece. Keynote, try to stay organized and keep all your things in one place, because should you decide to need anything from this particular set, you have one place where you can go to get them. Take those two components and put them to the side, and the next thing you want to grab is this particular piece of packaging. You're looking for this part of it. After pulling that piece of packaging, you're left with these three components. This is known as F, this is known as G, and this is known as H. Along with this large metal bar. Ooh, look at that branding. Looks kind of nice, very clean and sleek. Looking at the top of the bar, it's bald, basically. And at the bottom, we have three holes. That's where this comes in. Using the F bolts and screws, which you'll need the Allen key for, which is located, and all Allen keys required are located in this part of the packaging. Use the F screws to mount the bar and the metal bracket in place. There are optional soft pads that come with this particular item. All you really need to put that pad on is a steady hand, which I don't have, and yet I was still able to do this, so well done, Vivo. There is an optional circular part of it here that you can use to cover up the screws. Clean as you go, because there's a lot of components. One thing that both of these pieces have in common are these 4 holes. And the reason why you have these 4 holes is that when you essentially mount this on your desk, I'll give you an example of mounting this on my beautiful white desk here. 1 or 2, I should say, out of these 4 holes are going to have to be placed on here, and that all depends on the width of your desk. So for me, I'm going to end up using the bottom 2 holes here to put the G screws that came in the set from the first part of the packaging into here. This has to be mounted behind the larger bracket, and I'll show you how it looks. There's 3 Allen keys in this set. There's small, medium, and large, and this is the medium. And you gotta use the medium Allen key to mount the G screws into these holes. And this is the finished product. Pro tip, everyone, make sure that you give yourself a clean space to work with. It just makes things easier, and there's less risk of you damaging something. That is not a keyword for me, damaging anything. I'm doing just fine. Make a note to yourself that, those are my fingers, hi. When you mount this bracket onto your desk, make sure that the back part of the bracket is flush with the back part of your desk. And I have done that, and I can tell you that it is solid. This thing is holding on very, very tightly. Let's just see, when we put some weight on it with these 2 monitors, how it stacks up. Now that the main part is mounted, we're going to grab the swivel arm. Right before we put this swivel arm, we're going to take this wire clip that comes in the set and attach it to the bar on our desk. It's best to do this now before putting on that arm. Extend it out horizontally, and the goal is to have this particular component, which you're going to use to tighten onto that bar, right on top so that it's facing on the back. So you're going to want to tighten this from the back of your desk. And funny enough, I actually had the entire arm flipped upside down. So you want to put it right side up, which is that these screws are on top and this flat part of the plate is on the bottom. As you can see, I've gone ahead and made even more space on my desk to have a clean environment. There's also these 4 additional wire clips that you see here. They go on each component of your arm. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. You want to make sure that when you're installing these clips that the big part, the tall part, goes on the actual bar, and you're going to be mounting it behind, kind of like so, and it should just click into place. The reason is because when you mount it behind, you have this area at the back to open up when you want to have any sort of wire management, and it just makes things a little bit neater. After using the largest Allen key in the set to tighten the arm at the back, what we have left are these 2 VESA back plates. 2 come in a set because it's obviously a dual monitor setup, but one of these I'm not going to be using, and it's because I have an adapter plate for one of the monitors that I have here. It's this Samsung, oh, I moved it to the side. There it is. Samsung T240. It's a 1920 by 1200 pixel monitor. I got a really good deal on this on the used market. No pixels, no damage whatsoever. But this leg, the adapter plate that came from Samsung was very expensive, and it went out of production years ago. So upon getting this, I wasn't aware of that. So I ended up getting an adapter plate from a company called Gladiator Joe, which I'll be doing an additional review on once that comes in the mail. Mounting this particular bracket, these VESA brackets, mounting this bracket is going to be a relatively simple process. On a curved monitor or a flat monitor, it is more or less the same. There is one subtle difference, and it comes down to the following. These spacers that come in the packaging, you basically have a total of, what I'm counting here is 8. You really only need 4, but because it's a dual monitor setup, you get both, and that's just in case you have 2 curved monitors, which I don't know if I'll ever get, but we'll see. But I'm really going to need 4 of these, and I'm going to be attaching it to the back of the holes in the monitor. There's 8 of these screws that have a Phillips head. You're going to need 4 of them along with these 4 spacers to mount this bracket. Here I have my monitor laid down flat on my bed. It is my bed, so I don't have anything underneath it. You want to be very mindful of how you manage your monitor when putting it in this position. You don't want to put any unnecessary pressure because it is a curved monitor. For this particular case, you would essentially skip this step of using the spacers if you had a flat monitor, but because I'm going to use these, this is for people that are, you know, having a flat monitor and they want to buy something like this. It's going to be mounted like so. This tab is going to be on top, and you'll notice why once I manage to slide this on to the arm. When mounting this, I highly recommend that you just put spacers at the bottom of this bracket first and just do one leg at a time. The first thing I did was I put the bracket in between the spacer and the screw. I shoved the screw through the hole, and with none of these attached, I just placed it in the hole that was in my monitor. Once I got that set up, I just screwed it in a tiny bit so that it would hold it in place, and then I did the same thing, simply placing the spacer right above the hole, putting the screw straight through, and I just tightened them a little bit by hand, and I'm going to be tightening them with even pressure across all 4. When tightening these, make sure that you get them as even as possible. You don't want to rule out any sort of issues when it comes to human installation error, as I like to call it. So do yourself a favor, and when you tighten these down, and it'll essentially be like this. Start off here. I've gotten them all down already by hand. That's 1. I go across to this one, 2. And I do it so that it's snug, like it's not going to go anywhere. But as long as I go across like one way, then I should be okay. And then I start off at another point, doesn't matter. And then I get here, tighten the 4th and final screw. And we are set. That is on. Now that I've got the bracket on, I'm going to be putting it onto this part of the arm. This is going to be a bit tricky with one hand, but I'm going to try. I haven't put any pressure on the monitor. I'm going to take a look-see here. Slide it down, get it through the hole. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how easy it is. But we are going to have to do some tightening. I'm now using these screws, as you can see here, to put on top of here as a way of just making it look pretty and not having any exposed screws around to damage anything. But that was honestly great. That was ridiculously easy. And now I've basically got to get one of these Allen screws, whichever one fit. I'm hoping it's this one. I'm gonna have to tighten it on not that side, but this side. So I'm tightening this. I did do a bit of tightening already, but I lost which one it was supposed to be. I don't think it's that. Or was it? Let me try that again. No, that was a really chunky one. Okay, so this is the middle-sized screw that I'm going to be adding in. And assuming that my monitor is set up the way that I like it, I've just lifted it a bit. I'm going to go ahead and tighten with one hand this area, and it should just be straight, exactly how I set it up. Okay, so here's the final product. This is nothing short of amazing. Guys, it took me no time at all to do just simple, basic, plug and play cable management. And what I mean by that is all I had to do was this. Slide the whole thing over. So let me just adjust that a little bit. Like, just the fact that I can adjust all this is awesome. So I have my power cord and my display port here running through, and everything is plugged in, looking great. And all I had to do was run it through this here, a couple of the clips, and it's in. And I just was able to slide it back, as I will show you here, and voila. It's not perfect, but and voila, here's the final product. I gotta say, guys and gals, for me personally, this was an extremely sound investment. I cannot imagine myself playing without a dual monitor setup after this. Just to have the height, adjustability, and quite frankly, all the adjustability in terms of keeping things straight and whatnot, it's nothing short of amazing. I think the only downside is just that when you have a normal stand, as I'll grab here, because it sits on the desk, it's 100% straight. But even then, you can do that with your hand, and you can tighten everything once you're done. It is such an awesome product, ridiculously durable, and at least for me, now I don't have to compromise when I'm gaming or streaming or video editing. This is something that, regardless of what I'm doing on my desktop, I now deem it mandatory to have. It is an absolute must when it comes to comfort. You will not regret it. It takes away a ton of the real estate that is normally on your desk. I can't wait till this one goes up, which is going to be awesome. But past that, I can put my keyboard right underneath if I so choose, and it's not a problem. And everything else is just space. You cannot put a price on something like this, I gotta say. And these people that make this product, well done, team. You guys have done a fantastic job, and especially for buyers like me who are price conscious when it comes to these things. I don't really want to spend a couple $100 on some sort of setup like this. I don't think that's something that's necessary. I think regular Thai tool makers or whoever it is that is good with metal can make stuff like this. You are a dream and a godsend for a lot of PC gamers out there, so thank you. This is Frisky Rebel. I hope you guys and gals liked my review, and as always, stay frisky.